Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Jazakallah khair for joining us today for teen psychology. Inshallah, today we're going to go through a psychological perspective on teens and some of the challenges that they face. And then we'll go and discuss the Islamic portion of that, how to deal with that. Alhamdulillah, today we have a guest speaker with us, which I'm very happy to introduce you to. Our guest speaker today is a psychologist who, mashallah, has specialized in teen psychology, children development, and has other counseling and psychological certifications. Alhamdulillah. Please pop your questions on Facebook. If you don't have Facebook, then you can message us, inshallah, individually, and we try and take these questions and answer them at the end of the session. Without further ado, I would just like to turn it over to our psychologist, who is inshallah going to start with the webinar. Jazakallah khair. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. Jazakallah khair, Sheikha. I'd like to welcome everybody to you today. I'm very glad to be here today. And as you're all aware, we are here to speak about the psychology of teenagers and to give you an insight to their mindsets and behavior. I'd like to start with addressing any one of you present here who has or have children who haven't reached their teen years yet. If that is you, then I'd like to point out that you are at an advantage here. So I would urge you to put into practice what we learn here today. The younger the children, the easier it is to implement and lay the foundations. However, the older the child, the more challenging your job will be, depending on how you as parents laid the foundations for your children. Now, this is why the Prophet ﷺ said, what did he advise us? When choosing a spouse, he said, prioritize the deen over other factors. Now, when you stop to think about the wisdom in this, you understand the importance of it. When you have children and you raise them, the manner and the environment surrounding them will have a direct effect on their development. So it's obvious why Islam is a way of life. And when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the Prophet, peace be upon him, have said something and they've advised us, it's because there's deep meaning behind it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala hasn't provided all the intricate details of why we should do certain things. He's put it simply, and we as Muslims should accept without question and follow it. But regrettably, you see, what's happened is, as the world has evolved and the term psychology has been invented by Western academics who provide studies and findings, people have rushed to this research believing it will provide them with solutions to their problems. I actually studied and graduated in a completely different degree discipline. And after some years, I went on to attain a second degree, and psychology was my second achievement, you see. My initial interest was in psychology field, but that was thwarted, and I didn't understand it at the time. But I understand it now, you see, because when I undertook this field of study, I understood it now. Because before, I didn't have any knowledge of deen. I mean, by all means, I'm not saying I've achieved great, alhamdulillah. I have still a lot to learn. But you see, I'm in a better place with my faith when I undertook studying this field than I had been back then. And I can tell you, if I had taken it back then with very little knowledge of my deen, I would have been brainwashed by the Western academia. And I'm not saying everything in psychology is irrelevant, but I will tell you is its findings, some findings that coincide with the deen are the only useful material. So as mentioned before, the deen tells us to choose a spouse based on the strength of their faith. And psychology goes into the intricacies, showcasing why this is important. And as humans, it is not enough for us that Islam and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has told us this. We want reasons because we want understanding. If we did what we were created to do, we wouldn't be in the dilemmas we are in today. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, I have created you for no other purpose than to worship me. And when he gives us instructions, and if we just followed them, we would have no problems. But I forgot, psychology tells us that now, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us to do something, like find your partners and have the deen as a priority when you're choosing this. And our psychology will tell us the importance, and you will understand why it's important. Now, it tells us the importance of nurture. Nurture is when you're nurturing a child, meaning bringing them up and raising them. And it tells you about the effects on a child's development. Now, nurture is when you're bringing up your child, things that are included under this topic is our environment. For example, the culture we bring this child in, the beliefs, the society, parenting skills, relationships with siblings, socio-economic status of the family, health state of family members, habits and addictions, etc. Now, every single one of these things and much more can influence a child's development. What is not understood by a lot of people that behavior is learned. A child is not born with instant understanding of culture or the process of lying, and they don't just pop out the room with all these preconceived notions and knowledge, like, oh, right, okay, this is how we know. When they come out into that environment, these things are taught to them by the people and the environment around them. How does a child know he, she is a Muslim? Or how do they know they belong to another certain other faith? Because they are taught with words and actions. They are taught by society from what they see and participate in. They learn through your parenting skills. They learn what you teach them, and they learn even what you don't teach them. You think you haven't taught your child to lie, to scream, to shout, but you do when you act out these actions. A child's mind is perceptive. They watch, observe, and learn. So when you sit around your child, you gossiping and backbiting somebody else, you might not say the worst things. Oh my God, did you see her? Oh my God, can you believe how that person responded to me? Oh, yes, they are learning this behavior. Now, for instance, when husbands shout, and not only husbands, wives can shout as well, but it's just, obviously, when we look at statistics, it's mostly the males that are abusive in the husband. So hence, I will just go with this. By all means, I'm not saying this is gender specific. So it's an example. So if like a husband is shouting and he's becoming abusive or violent to his wife, these children watch this, they observe and they learn this. And then they go out and act it into the outside world. This is why a child who is bullied is not held wholly responsible, because he's being bullied at home. This child is being bullied at home, and then this is all they know, they understand. So they take this behavior and they implement it into the outside world with other people. Now, I had somebody come to me once and said, they have this child who's a very problematic child, and he has these outbursts and little fits, and he's shouting and he's quite aggressive and assertive. And I said, well, he's clearly learning this. He's obviously learned this. I'm sorry, you might not like it, but you or your husband behaving like this. When a person in like the education field or a psychological field or anything to do with education, child education, or even, for instance, medical professionals, they are aware of this. When they see, of course, I'm not saying there are some other children who have other problematic issues, but you see, when a child goes and he behaves, he is taking what he is doing, or they're an example of your upbringing. When they are shouting and acting out, obviously they've learned this from somewhere. This is the behavior they've learned. Is this what they're surrounded by? So this is all they know. How is it that child's fault then if this is all they know? Now, also, so again, their relationship with the siblings, what do they do? Are they the older siblings they look up to? Are they the younger ones? How do they treat each other? What is their relationship like? And again, like I mentioned, the socio-economic status, meaning if the parents are rich, they're well off. They provide anything and everything for their child or children. Whatever the child wants, they'll get. Spoiling them, teaching them what they desire, what they want, they get. Now, this is not teaching the child patience, it's not teaching the child value of money or respect. Instead, it's nurturing a spoiled, self-centered, arrogant behavior in the child. Whereas in a poor family, they may be enable more humbling a persona. However, again, depending on how you laid this foundation, if you're grateful, or if you're moaning, or if you're bitter, this can also result in that child having the bitter nature, self-loathing, envying others. Are there times where you say, oh, we are so poor, we don't have enough, have you seen so-and-so, they've got all this, and again, what are you feeding into that child? I mean, they can come from a humbling foundations, but how are you nurturing them? So all depends on how they are nurtured, and habits and addictions. Now, studies show that children with parents who smoke are likely to be smokers when they grow up. And why? Because they do as they see. We've all heard the proverb, actions speak louder than words. What are your actions telling your children? What addiction and habits are you and their surroundings promoting to them? How are you influencing your child's development? See, and going to the deen, when two people are strong in their deen and they raise their children, a lot of this will be passed on to them without you having to specify tiny details. You nurture them right when you follow the deen. Now, Western psychology tells you how this impacts a child's development. Islam tells you to do it. It doesn't give you a dummy's guide or a step-to-step detailed thesis of why. It says do it. We should do it. But again, because psychology will give us details, we will run to the Western side of this, allowing us to get help. But anyway, so moving on, we're going to move on to the children's development process. So by the way, if I've spoken about these things, I would advise you, if you have a young child, please be considerate. And it's never too late. It'll be harder, but it's never too late to try to alter your surroundings. So like I said, we're moving on to the children's development process. So as children grow, they develop the ability to recognize feelings. Now, their emotions are also increasingly influenced by their thinking. They become more aware of their own feelings, and they're better able to recognize and understand other people's. A strong piece of advice I would like to give all parents today is young people hate being talked down to. Please be mindful. If you want to reach out to your child and you want to make an impact, you want to have a conversation, please speak to them. You have to understand, you have to remember, these children are not children anymore. They are growing up. They are young people now. And how they were when they're 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, how you spoke to them then, you cannot continue that tone. You have to respect that they grow. If you stick to that tone and you have not made room for that and not adhered to it, they will not listen. So if nothing else, if you walk away with nothing else today, please do make a note of this. They hate being talked down to. Change your methods, change your ways. So I want to talk about the adolescence group, which fits into 13 to 18 years of age. Now, what I want to just say what the majority challenges, what happens at this stage, majority of the time. So you don't think you're alone, your child is, alone in this. Because here in this age, they enter the stage of what one of the psychologists has termed as identity, which I'll speak about in detail later on, identity versus role confusion. What does this mean? They are trying to find their identity. They're trying to find their roles. They're trying to find themselves, because this is the age because they're not a child anymore. They are going to have to be growing up. And it's like when they're making career choices, what are you going to be doing for your final subjects? What will you be studying at college? What do you want to do? It's confusing, because you're like, oh no, what am I going to be doing in my life? It's all of a sudden, when you were 4 and I want to be an astronaut or I want to be something, now it's reality. And you've realized you haven't really touched up on it, or have you thought about it? So it's very confusing. So they're trying to find them own self at this stage. They're trying many roles, many psychological masks to see what suits them and what makes them comfortable. What kind of person are they? Because at this time it's worse, because they're seeking approval from others. They're trying to see where they fit in. They understand value of accomplishments. Their identity roles and peer pressure is a major factor at this age. And again, this is why, if you remember that Prophet, peace be upon him, said, keep good influence. And I might stop at to just say it's this is applicable to the youth. This is applicable to you at any time and any age of your life. You might be great and doing great in your deen, and you might suddenly get this job, and you've moved on, or you've moved into a new home in a new area, and you're surrounded by certain new individuals. And if your company is bad, and you will eventually get influenced and affected by this, even though you might be very strong in your deen. That's why it is so important to have good influence. Again, the deen tells us this. I know somebody who said she was always she was from a very this Asian background, where she was compelled to wear a scarf over her head while she was younger, and it wasn't along the proper hijab. You must have seen it. I think it's very common in Indian and Pakistani backgrounds, where they'll drape this piece of scarf over themselves. It doesn't fulfill any of the Islamic obligations or the rights. It doesn't even fulfill I can't even say it comes under the hijab category, but it was cultural. So she was forced to wear this whilst growing up. So eventually she got married, she had daughters, and she said because she remembered her own challenges. I mean, herself now, she does wear, obviously she wore the hijab, but she wore it about a choice. But she's wearing these girls up, and she said, I don't want to force my girls into this, because she knows how much she hates it. And I'm not saying let them run free reign and, do how they want, dress how they want. Yes, we should have restrictions, but we should be careful of how much how much we show them and tell them and guide them, not force them. And so she told them she didn't even have it as a rule. She didn't even make them wear it. And if anything, actually, I think she discouraged it. But they went to school. And you have to understand, this will tell you how heavy, how important this peer pressure is. Because the girls went to school and they came back and they said, Mom, we want to wear the hijab. And the mom's like, no, don't. Why do you want to wear the hijab? Leave it. I mean, and they're in secondary school by this time. And secondary school, so the teens. And this is the worst time. I'm not trying to go, this is the worst, because at this time you are all about celebrities and friends and fashion and the opposite gender. We want to look beautiful. You are adhering to trying to have a certain image. You have a certain image of all these things, and the fashion focus, all these are so imperative in your life. Who's got the great hairstyle? Who's got the new hair color? What shall I do to my hair? Oh, and hair accessories, of course. But they came home and they said to the mom, we want to wear the hijab. And the reason was, our friends wear it. We are the only ones who aren't wearing it in our group. And this is the power of peer pressure. You're not being told, you're not being forced, you're not being guided, and you're not even being asked. And you've come and said, I want to wear this. So pray, make dua, make an effort. I know of a family who went into a predominantly white area to live in. Yes, everybody wants, the problem is you prioritize everything else. Oh, I want a nice house. I want it in that area. Stop and look at that area. Is there a Muslim area? This Deen again tells us, if you can live around Muslim areas, live around Muslim areas. Because when you are rearing your children, and when you are growing yourself, because we're always growing and learning, you will be influenced. So when your child is around there and they will, like I was saying about this family, they were in a predominantly white area. So what happens? These girls adapted this characteristics, even in terms of dressing was affected. And again, because it was inevitable. And the parents themselves came to a point where they were acting, I know the term, it's probably used as more in an abusive way when they call somebody coconuts, but I mean, they were they were being very non-Asian, becoming more Western, because they themselves are being affected by this. They had to answer to their white friends, oh yeah, my child is also quite free, because when they speak to them, my girl's dressing like this, or she's having a boyfriend, they normalize it. And when you hear something enough, you start accepting it. You might think you won't, but Shaitan makes you do this as well. He'll do his whispers. So again, please understand peer pressure, understand the decisions you're making. How are you influencing and affecting your child's upbringing? It's huge. Influence is so huge. It's magnificent. And so, like, moving on, they'll feel, moving on to another factor of this age group, they'll be feeling misunderstood. And this time they need family to be close, but not too intruding in their life. So it's not like, let's leave you alone completely and let's just overwhelm you. And like I said, how you were for them when they were younger, you can't be like that for them now. It won't be the same. There's changes. Adhere to them, accept them, because they want guidance, but they also want to be independent. At this stage, they make decisions without thinking of consequences or potential negative outcomes. This is why joyriding is usually subjected to a certain age group, because it usually always male and a certain age group. Why? Because this is the age, it's all about taking the risk and having fun. They won't think about consequences, well, the negative outcomes, because this is that age where they won't be thinking. And this is why there's on the day of judgment, what is one of the categories of people that will be getting the shade on that day? It'll be the young whose heart is attached to the mosque. Why? Here in this, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it is evident when he says this, because it compels one to think, and it makes one realize a young person's heart to be attached to the mosque is such a huge thing. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala recognizes this, and he's telling us by saying, on this day, one of the people that will be getting my shade is the young. And getting the shade on that day is so imperative. And you realize, again, if we just take a moment to understand the wisdom, you will realize, because it's so hard for this youth to be able to be attached to the mosque, they'll be attached to movies, cars, and anything, opposite gender, dating, anything they will be attached to. But to be attached to the mosque at this age is such a challenge. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala recognizes this. He recognizes, again, he doesn't go into detail. He doesn't tell us this is why. He says the young whose heart is attached, I will give him the shade on that day. And that tells us enough, because it's so hard at that age to be attached to our heart, to be attached to the mosque. So as the parents, I would advise you to be always aware of the duality in teenagers. They will have mood swings, they will have depression, they will have anxiety, negative self-talk, hopelessness, and failing. Now, they go through a lot of these, and I will explain again, they go through a lot of changes, but I won't be going into detail about the neurological changes, meaning in terms of what happens inside the brain, clearly because it's a webinar, not a course. But I know Sheikh did say she might want to be running a future psychology course. So inshallah, if all goes well, we'll see what that happens. But I just want to make you aware of this. Now, what I do want to make you aware of next is what everybody loves about psychology and the best is research, because we're told a bit by bit. So research shows us children with developmental delays are more likely to have behavioral issues. Now, the child development delay adds directly to the parent's stress level, which in return affects the relationship with the children. And this is a bit sort of people don't realize. I had a parent come to me once, and she said, I have this child, and she was child number 3. Before this, she's had 2 previous children, and she said she acts out so much. She misbehaves. I don't know how to cope with her. And I said to her, see, when she was about to have this child, she didn't want this child. She already had 2. She was stressed out. She really didn't want this 3rd child. And she already had resentment in her heart for this child. And when the child was born, and I don't think she really bonded with that child. And as that child was growing up, she saw mommy behave differently to elder brother and sister and herself. So what happens? People don't realize when your child is acting out, they're doing it for attention. the more misbehavior there is because you're not giving them the time, and they don't come and tell you, because like I said, they won't know how to come and speak to you. I mean, adults in themselves cannot accept their emotion. I mean, we know mental data cannot speak about their emotion, and this is a child, she doesn't understand. So when you are stressed, you're going to be agitated, you're going to be angry, and you're going to be frustrated. And that's not going to help the child's behavior. And if anything, they're probably just going to start imitating it because you're showing them this. So please be conscious of this. Again, and then parental warmth and the level of control, this has the main effect on attachment. And what does Islam tell us? Islam says, treat children with kindness and mercy. Again, there's wisdom behind it. I can tell you, I mean, like I said, Islam won't go into bit by bit why. It'll tell you, and that's enough. See, the powerful statements that we just take, but regrettably, we can't. Now, again, what does Islam tell us? Islam says it is obligatory on us to educate oneself. That's what the first surah that was revealed, Iqra bismika, read. Islam tells us how important education is. And what does research tell us? Research tells us lower IQ in parents are have low controlling negative parenting skills. They have negative parenting skills, low IQ. And there we have the hikmah behind why Allah SWT tells us to educate oneself. So if you have a lower IQ, it will affect your parenting skills. Regulating emotions, healthy habits. Now, parents' emotions affect children, hence it's important to regulate. And again, what does the Prophet, peace be upon him, said? He said, eat well. He said, he even advises you how much to eat. He said, keep a third for food, a third for drink, and a third for breathing. Why? Because you can imagine when you eat heavy, thick, greasy meals, you will feel like that and you will act like that. And you will move like that. And it'll be evident in the state of your hair, in the state of your skin, in your body, and then your habits are like this. You know, and if you're a smoker, you don't get your cigarette. And excuse me, people have these nicotine withdrawal symptoms. And I know parents who have, I know people who, when they don't have their smoke, what do? They have their little fix, anger issues, because they need their nicotine fix. So again, unhealthy habits, unhealthy things will affect your emotions, and that direct effect on children. So look for the deen for answers. It is telling you, eat everything in proportion, eat right, don't overindulge. You eat happy, light, fresh, you will be happy, light, fresh. You've all heard, you are what you eat. So you put good things in and you will act good. Now, I think the speaker once said, as a Muslim speaker, he said, you eat pig, you will act like pig. And you see this with the pork eating cultures when they do partner sharing, threesomes, polygamous relationships, because this is pig culture. When the male and female pig mate with each other, they invite the others to come and watch. So you are what you eat. Be careful of what you consume. It will affect you. Now, moving on to the ages of 11 to 15. Now, this is what a healthy development is. So even though it might sound bizarre to you, do not worry about it. This is normalized, considered healthy. Now, but at this age, so they start thinking, children start thinking more logically. They're becoming introspective and moody. They need privacy. They're valuing opinions of friends. They're trying different outfits. And I don't just mean in terms of clothes. I mean in terms of personality as well. What are they? Are they kind, nice? What is it they want to? Because different things inspire them. And they behave differently because they want to see where they fit in with their level of society and their peer group. Remember, like I said, I was telling you about the story when the girls wanted to wear the headscarf. Remember, they need to see, to fit in, people will go to the extreme. Now, they might want to make more friends, or they might prefer to be alone. And I think that has a lot to do with how one's personality is, like introvert, extrovert. So that's not a problem. It's just the way any individual is, and they regard their parents as form of guidance and support, and teachers as secondary ones. So remember, they're not gonna, meaning they're not gonna see you as first and foremost for guidance and support. You're secondary. And I think the biggest transition for parents to be making is, as children are younger, parents manage them. You know, like you manage it, like you're a manager in a work environment or role. You're managers, you manage these children, you manage their life, you manage their calendars, you manage their health, their food. As they're growing up, your role shifts from manager to consultant. You will have to become a consultant. You can't manage them anymore because they won't allow it. They don't want managers. They're growing up now. And I think it's hard for parents to realize that, okay, I'm not managing anymore. Let me become a consultant. Sit down, you're facilitators, you're consultant. They will consult you and they want guidance. Be there for them in that regard. Change yourself. Your job roles have changed. They've altered. And regrettably, people don't alter them. So please do bear that in mind as parents. Now, the ages of 16 to 18, at this age, they are striving to be undependable and emotionally detached from parents and other members of the family, from dependence to autonomy and maturity. Here they are discovering their strengths and weaknesses, and this can make them self-centered, moody, or impulsive. And at this age, they're proud of their achievements and success. Also, at this age, they can start dating. Again, depending on their environment, on their school, on their friends, on their upbringing, how this affects them. But they spend a lot of time with their friends. This is why they need privacy as well. They'll probably talk about who's got a crush on who, and what did you do, and silly things. But this is when it starts coming out. Each adolescent will go through this differently. Now, some will go through smooth and quicker, while others won't. Some will leave home, and some families may be distant. So the adolescents can feel alone in the crowd. Now, again, this depends on if the child is from a dysfunctional family. Are the parents arguing? Are the parents split? You have parents who are really not interested. A child understands this. I know a child as young as 10, 11, and they said, yeah, and I've queried something with one of this child, when I was having a talk to this child, and she said, yeah, my parents don't care. And she's understood this from a younger age, and she's just accepted it. But it hurts her, and you can see this, but she won't embrace the hurt, but she's acknowledged it. And she's conveyed it in such a way where she's disengaged from it. But children do see it, they feel it, they will understand it. When you don't put the time and effort in, you don't put a routine in for them, they will equalize it as non-caring. So again, if that child, that adolescence is distance from you, then maybe, they will be anyway, but to what degree depends on you and your surroundings. Now, this is a challenging time for them. As I said before, I did touch on, they have changes, not only biological, like, body-wise, they're not only developing, this is a time they're changing their bodies. It's also cognitive meaning brain changes. The actual brain changes do occur in the teenagers' years, and they have psychological, social, moral, and spiritual sense. All these changes. Now, we can all imagine, like, ladies, when we when it's the time of the month, or your pregnancy, and just hormones in itself are so powerful. They can throw you off. You're just 1 minute, you can be it can motivate you to different emotions and quite extreme, but that's just hormones. So you can understand, try to understand, this is a lot more than just one. It's not just biological, it's not just hormonal, it's cognitive, psychological, all these other changes, they're coming together. So this is a time, it could be exciting for the child, but it can be daunting. And they want more independence. They feel more independent. They feel more freedom they perceive. So, they will think, right, I do this, right, okay, I'm free. I've got more freedom. But with freedom comes responsibility. And is that child ready for this? This is what the challenge is. Now, adolescents' perspective and attitude sometimes change pretty dramatically, and close family members can feel like they're living with a stranger. But again, this happens because of the changes they will have effect on them. Now, I'll move on to cognitive complexities in adolescence. Now, there was a Swiss cognitive psychologist, Jean Piaget, and he said adolescence is a time when young people develop cognitively from concrete operations to formal operations. Now, I'm not against psychologists or the theories, but only when they go against Islam. But many will prove that what Islam already says, and they're just merely going into deeper, greater depth. So like he said that adolescents are able to deal with ideas, concepts, and abstract theories. They can make mistakes, which undermines confidence. And we know that at this age, it really can halt your confidence. They're learning through success and failure, and it's a part of the challenge process of the adolescence. So it's all a part of it. Ecocentrism, which is performing for public. Now, when they think they are being observed, but this is applicable to actually all humans. When we think we are being watched, we start behaving better. But they think they are observed by others all the time. So they think others underestimate what they do. And so how they think can lead to feelings of frustrations and even outbursts of anger. Now, adolescents live in the private world where they think they are invincible and can't be heard. At this age, they have had to deal with many deaths, and that's why they demonstrate a lot of risky behaviors at times. Now, physical and cognitive changes in their development lead to believe or feel that no one is capable of understanding them or know how they feel. I'm sure we've all had a time in our life where we thought, I'm going through this such and such a thing. You can't understand, nobody will understand, they haven't been through it. But it's just like us, when we look back and we know the things we've been through whilst we were growing up, we had our challenges. And I know we're older, we've got other challenges now, but try to stop and think what it was like. You really try to go back and think. And you need to have to come to a point where you try to understand your child better. And you have to understand they have internal conflicts. Now, these are typically experienced by adolescents and to a lesser degree by younger children. And what do I mean by younger children? Like, I know of a young child who is 11, but she's very mature for her age. So I would consider her somebody who's sort of experiencing these adolescent changes, even though she doesn't technically fit into the specified age group. But again, she's very mature for her age, and so I know she's also going through it. So it doesn't mean the younger children cannot, but I don't mean a lot younger, a few years younger. Now, why do they happen? Because it happens more in teenagers rather than younger children, and the reason being is because when the child reaches puberty, they experience many changes. Like I said, and they experience psychological, neurological, which is to do with your brain, hormonal systems, often come at the same time. And like I said before, when we just go through a hormonal on its own, it's blah, oh wow, it's very mighty. And so you can be sympathetic, realizing that it's not just hormonal for them. There's other factors involved. Now, for them, they might have difficulty in adjusting to how the body shape is changing. And now, again, this comes down to how are they going to be affected by body shape? Because society, media, when you look at Barbie dolls that are being produced, have you seen them? Oddly elongated legs, tiny little legs that actually can look like arms, and the arms are even smaller, perky chests and tiny, teeny waist, long, gorgeous hair. From this very young age, this child has been shown what female should be look like. And now you've seen the male Ken doll. Of course, he's this perfect looking gentleman doll. And so this is what perfection is for them. And a lot of the time, people have surgeries and they actually look like these dolls. They look a little inhumane. But this is how media is portraying it. and how celebrities, we have these great body shapes who will starve to death, and of course we'll have multiple surgeries, and they're portraying this is how your body shape is. And when yours is changing as a child, you're looking up to these and you're adhering to these. It will get worse now. And I'm not saying, of course, it's inevitable. Please don't misunderstand me. You're not going to be, completely making them unaware of this. They will be aware of it, but the depth of it, how much aware are they of? Now, remember, this is the age where they'll be sexually motivated as well. And they will want to explore, again, for boys, it's hormones. And I'm not saying for the girls, it's always necessarily sexually motivated. You have to understand, they're having challenges and they're having difficulty to adjusting to their body shape. So what they're going to do, I know plenty of girls who actually go on to research. And when they research their certain private areas, private body parts, it's not because it's sexually motivated. It's because to say, am I fine? Am I right? Am I developed okay? Is there something wrong with me? So how are you giving them access to this? I know some kids who have TV in their room. I know somebody who had it at a very absurd age, from a very young age. And I don't agree. Why is there a TV in your child's room? What do you think they're going to do on this TV, parents? What do you think? Are they going to put a religious show on? No. So don't provide them with the tools and then cry about changes later, because you are aiding them. You are aiding them. You wouldn't put a TV in a teenager's room, or even younger, because even a younger child flicking can come up. You've got to remember, especially if you're in the West, what they consider mild and acceptable is not acceptable and mild for us. I mean, they'll show, I know there was one movie, or I don't know what it was, and they had a very low age or universal age rating on it, and they showed a nude of a male from the back, so you could see his butt cheeks. But for them, it's acceptable. For us, it is not. When you show this child, it's okay, we can overlook this. It was only, their backside, that's fine. It was just some butt cheeks. You're showing them, because we've said this area here, we're showing them what the aura is. We've said this area here is non-touchable, non-lookable. We don't, show this off, we don't advertise this, and we don't look at it. And then all of a sudden, oh yeah, we can do it in a movie. Don't contradict yourselves. Be careful. Be careful of what they are watching. Don't provide a TV. Don't provide, if you know they have devices and you can't get all their devices, or you won't get all the devices, because I know it takes a bit of effort, and regrettably not everybody can put the time in. If you can't make that effort to go and collect their technology, and I'm not saying somebody might have a secret phone or something to do research, what are you capable of? You are the bill payers. You pay for this internet in the house, you pay for that Wi-Fi process. Change. Now, it doesn't take genius, just two things you can do. You can either change the password, so every time they want to go onto the internet, you'll say, right, this is the time, come to me, I will put the password in, then you can go. If that's too much hassle, have the internet disconnect it, plug it out, or, don't have it going, don't have the connection. But because parents nowadays, it's inconvenient for them, oh, it's all right, kids asleep, I'm sure they will be fine. And then I need to be on WhatsApp, I need to check my Facebook status, I have to post this, because our needs are way more than this child's rearing and upbringing. You will leave it. So what do you think this child is doing alone in that room in the night? I mean, talking to their friends, they're looking at, of course, they're going to be drawn to porn. They're hormone, they're intrigued by this. They can't control their hormones, and it doesn't take a lot. And like I said, it's not always sexually motivated. It's like, am I okay? Am I fine? Why does this person look like this? I don't look like this. I need to see, I need to check. From here, it can go downhill as well. I mean, like I said, the motivation might not be crude and might not be ill-affected, but it can be driven to such an effect. Now, because teens are trying to find their place in society, so they will do what they can. Now, like I said, they try many roles and their relationship with their friends or the opposite sex, who suddenly become more attractive. Now, this confuses them, because now they need to find a different behavioral and communicative ways with them. All of a sudden, the friend I can't speak to properly because I'm attracted to them now. And things change. And this is why they want privacy as well. It's just one of the reasons. Oh my God, I have such a crush. What shall I do? And minor things. She looked at me, he looked at me. Oh my God. And they spent hours talking to their friends about this because it's that age. Now, teens' attitude to school and related activities can change drastically. They can seek independence, but still need parental guidance. Like I said, because this is where the independence versus parental guidance. They will want some independence. They don't want to be feeling like you're still making the decisions. I know of an 11-year-old, when she was interjected, said, well, there was a parent who said, oh, I've read a report and I'm not comfortable with you crossing the road. And then they've got a corner shop across the road. And the parent was like, I wanted to give a little bit more independence, so I wanted to just, be able to go to the shop. And she started it, but then she came across this article where 2 11-year-old girls were abducted. So in Paddington, she said, oh, it's just not safe and I can't allow it. And this 11-year-old had a bit of a rebellious fit, and she said, why are you treating me like I'm a 4-year-old? And the parent said, I explained to her, oh, look, I do want you to have the independence, but this is what happened. And the child turned around and said, oh, conveniently, they were both 11, were they? Because she's 11 herself. And the adult started laughing and she said, I actually will show you the article. Take that step, show them the article. They think you're exaggerating, allow them to understand. Say, okay, come to terms, right, okay, if you want to go, let's do this. Understand the power of dua. Come to terms with, you know what, I cannot save this child. Allah SWT says in the Quran, when the people thrust their fingers into their ears because of thunder and lightning, he said, go where you will. If you think you're scared of death and you think you can hide away from it, go. I will bring you from the depths of the earth. And he will do that, and he can do that. So, yeah, I'm not telling you, let's send the child out at night and say, Allah's going to protect you. The hadith, everybody knows this, tie your camel. I don't leave the camel there and act like Allah's going to protect it. Tie your camel, yes, of course, but make dua. I always say to people, we have a traveling dua. Yeah, when you're traveling, make the dua. It's there for a reason. Before you leave the house, there's duas, make them. Recite Ayatul Kursi or something. You understand, like Ayatul Kursi, I love it because it's very powerful. And I was listening to about it, and you hear these things, understand them. We have them at our disposal, but yet we refuse to use them. Call upon Allah, ask for his safety, ask for his protection, tell your children to. You will feel safer. I know if I send a child out and I can have like 3 or 4 people around this, bodyguards. Or I could tell that child, you know what, go and call on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and I'm leaving you to the safety of him. I will feel safer because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said the whole world can come together to try to do good for you. And if I haven't willed it, they won't be able to do anything. And the whole world can come together to do something bad for you. If I haven't willed it, it will not happen. Understand the power of your Creator. Understand the power of dua. Do not look at human beings for help. Do not look at Western psychology for help. Allah SWT tells you in the deen. Yeah, I'm not saying don't understand it. And it's like I said, Western psychology will go into detail. And if you've got the time, that's great, go into detail. But if you really don't have the time, just go for the basic commandments of your Lord, because there's wisdom behind them. They are wisdom. Now, I want you to understand teens suffer from peer pressure. Like peer pressure and how to behave, and like I spoke before about how to speak, how to dress. It's very powerful. And they have temptation of alcohol and drugs. Now, and it depends how much of a backgrounding have you given. Oh, is mommy, daddy smoking at home? They smoke cigarettes. Oh, I can do, there's no harm in rolling up a spliff, and you've shown them that. It's okay, because I could smoke this, then what dad's smoking this, so why can't I just smoke something green? It's still smoking, isn't it? Mom's smoking, why can't I smoke it? So you're allowing them to justify because you've shown them this. Some parents easily sit back and say, well, I didn't promote this. Yes, you did. Yes, you did. Stand up and look at yourself, please. Now, their uncertainty about future, and they select unsuitable careers. Again, depending on how driven they are as well. Now here at this age as well, they experience many confusing feelings toward themselves, feelings of self-pity mixed with self-hate. Now, like I said before, where does this come from? You know, looking at these images, how involved are they with others? You know, we'll see very pretty, perfect people, and you're like, oh no. And if they've had a bad diet at home, because I know I see every Friday, obviously now because of the coronavirus, it's not so evident, but every Friday I see takeaways full. You know, the parents are there with the kids. Oh, great, you know, that's great. But why are they going to be self-pitying themselves afterwards? Because you've stuffed them with this great takeaway food and they've become. And I always say, you are what you eat. And you've allowed this food to be in your house. Parents, you've allowed junk food to be in your house. You've allowed the takeaway consumption. You've promoted it. And they've got to a stage where they are unhealthy, they are obese, they are overweight, and they are fat. And this is the age where they get picked on. And this is the age where they get isolated. Because, you know, we want to be healthy and fit. Celebrities don't look like that. So how on earth can we hang around with a fat kid, chubby? No, no. And then what do you think is going to happen to that child of yours who you've been feeding and giving great load of sugar to? Self-hate. Again, so it will come from this. You don't give them enough time for education, and they feel inadequate. I'm not clever enough. I feel dumb. Because you didn't have a routine for your child. There's no, if they don't eat right and they don't sleep right, it affects their memory. It affects their education. It affects the attention span. And this terminology that's thrown around a lot, ADHD, attention hyperdeficiency. Again, they will give you pop pills for it. Yeah, sure. If you go to the Western medical practitioners, they will pop pills for it, you know, make your brain sleep. I know somebody who said when they were younger, their parents took them to a medical professional, and he said he wasn't told what the problem was, but after leaving that, he was given some pills, and every day he used to have to pop a pill and eat this. And he said, I lived my entire secondary school in a haze. Later on, I found out because I was diagnosed with this ADHD, I was then prescribed this pill. And what happened? He lived his entire secondary school years in a daze. And he actually resented his parents for this, first for not telling him, and then for making that call. I'm not saying these are problems, but look at how if you go by Islam, you eat right, you sleep right, you go by the rules, you won't have these problems. You know, a lot of these type of things, attention deficiency, how does it occur when you don't sleep right? Yeah, they will tell you there's other things happening. Yeah, you will have activity in the brain. I'm not even denying that. But why did these activities happen? Because we're not adhering to the rules Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us. He's given us life plan, eat right, sleep right. He said in the Quran, night is made for sleeping and rest. But when people don't do that, it will have an effect. You don't realize if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has told you something, it's powerful. Understand it. There's wisdom behind it. If you don't understand it, that's not your job. Just listen. Understand, accept. You don't have to go into detail. It's not my job here. Adolescent self-identity is how they define themselves, and their social identity is how they're perceived by others. These are forming now, you see, and it is creating many conflicting views about themselves. Now they have their self-identity confusion, and they have the self-pity and self-hate. Remember, if you're not looking great, you're going to think, I'm not being perceived great, and regrettably that is true. You are judged. And the children are aware of this, because when they're judged, they're treated in that manner. Other external factors they can experience at the same time can add to stress and conflict for factors such as, for instance, if you have to move house, and so there's going to be a change of school. So you're moving home and you're going to in a whole different area, and they have to start a new school. And you remember, this is going to add stress and conflict to this child, because now he's made friends, she have made friends, and now to try to make new friends, it's hard. People won't connect to you easily. And that home you're moving into, I mean, is it because you had to go down market, or because you had to go up? What are the reasons they're going to affect him? If you're going to live in a rough neighborhood, are these so your child might be a victim of behavior. But if they don't adhere, and they might think, oh no, I have to become a part of these. Maybe there's a youth there who behave badly, and the only option your child feels like, either I join them or I become victimized. So that might encourage them to go on a certain track. Again, these have a huge influence on these people. Now, chronic illness of a family member, like I said, when something's happening at home, especially children, they don't know how to deal with things a lot. How is it affecting them? Separation of parents. Parents decided they don't want to live together anymore. A child a lot of the time blames themselves. I wasn't good enough. Maybe I did this. I contributed. Sometimes they'll resent their parents. How could you not love me? How could you do this to me? How are you leaving? You remember that all these feelings. Again, I don't believe two people should stay together just for trying to, because what you're doing, if you are not getting along, you're making it worse. I would suggest you speak to this child. Tell them, this is where I would say, because I know a lot of Asian cultures think let's bury the topic. But what I do like about, but again, what does Islam say? Speak to them with kindness and mercy. Explain to this child, if we're not living together because we can't get along or something, we want to live separate, but we love you. Reaffirm this for the child. They need to know this. The more love and affection they get, and they realize, and you could play it like, oh, you will get two homes, and they will see it's better, then they won't resent you for it. But sweeping the subject under the carpet is not going to help. Now, like a death of a loved one in the family also can affect the child, a teenager. Family financial problems. We have not enough money. Oh God, if the child's going to say, I can't bring my friends around, we live in a dump. It's embarrassing. It stinks so. It's just horrible here. I can't. Everybody's got the new pairs of shoes, and there's some new trainers came out, and I can't wear them, and I'm being mocked at. Everybody's saying I'm out of fashion. I'm not in fashion. I look like a tramp. These things really affect a child, especially teenagers, and they need. It's clear that teenagers need as much assistance as possible with learning. They do need assistance. But remember the key word being assistance. Now, again, a system, how to take care of themselves, how to find support and resources that can help them grow through this transition. Now, they will benefit from learning about what they're going through, how to learn to cope with it better. But how can they learn about this? How can you be of assistance if you do not know yourself? Educate yourselves. And then be available. Let them know, oh, right, yeah, you're going through these changes. Don't worry, you're going to hit puberty. Dad's going to talk to your boys, moms talk to your girls. They're not going to allow too much detail, but trust me, they need guidance. They need to know they're not the only ones. Don't be uncomfortable. These things are happening. Talk to them about it. Tell them changes are happening. There's nothing to worry about. I know somebody who was talking to her girl, and she said, she had a great way of speaking, because you don't sit in there and say, right, okay, should we talk about what's happened? No, you need to learn tools. You can't go in and say, right, find a way to speak to your child, communicate with them, but not as a formal chat. Like, you need to be a little informal, a bit casual about it. But again, you can't do this until you don't know, but let them know. Now, how do internal conflicts affect adolescents? Main effects on the cognitive and emotional levels, where the teenager has many negative thoughts and feelings about themselves and about the world around them. Now, these can include, for example, poor willpower, low ability to focus, inferiority complex, feelings of frustration, uncontrolled anger, absent-mindedness, mental instability, escapism. Academic achievements can suffer. Relationship with others can become confusing and complex. Now, I'm moving on to, there was an American-German psychologist, and he suggested, by the name of Eric Erikson, he suggested all adolescents face major identity crisis at some point. Now, he was the one who to be considered one of the psychological stages, which he was the one who called identity versus identity confusion. Now, he said if the adolescent resolves his conflict, so he understands, what identity he's having, and they come to a firm sense of self-identity, they will lead to secure sense of identity, overall fulfillment. They'll have healthy resolution of conflict. But if the teenager doesn't reach healthy resolution and they don't understand their identity, it can lead them to poor sense of self-role, confusion, and low self-esteem. They're not reaching it. And then if you take your child to the Western psychologists or counselors here, they'll probably tell them, well, what are you confused about? Are you confused about your gender? And even if they make something minor, your child will be encouraged. So be careful of what you do here, because times are getting worse. Now, understand the teenage crisis, yeah, because teenage psychology is very complex. Now, if you try to be friends with your rebel teenager, they will treat you with no respect. But if you are too strict, they'll become frustrated and angry. So what's the best thing to do? Be honest and calm, and establish clear and consistent rules. Look at Islam. What does it say? You will only get through this when you look at Islam. Islam says strike a balance. And psychology says that as well. For the people who want answers from Western psychology, it actually is just elaborating what Islam has 1500 years, what Islam was established first, what Islam has already said centuries later. Research, human research is also reiterating this. So, but Islam says what? Islam says strike a balance. So look to Islam and find how to find and achieve this. Educate yourself. Until you don't, you can't educate them. Now changes. Adolescents are like the terrible twos. It's a delicate period where you have to try to understand your child is, you have to understand your child to avoid losing control and your temper. Now, I don't know if you remember when your child was 2, they were trying best. You know, when children are 2, they're 2 years old, they're trying their best to be understood. And then they come to a point, they finally manage to express themselves, and they realize they could say no. And therefore, they decided to say no too when they've realized it. Similarly, a teenager has learned a lot, but they're not equipped to understand that your decisions are not arbitrary, but based on your experience. They don't understand this. You know, your experience, they won't. They're not wise as you, yeah. But wisdom is gained over time. And how are you going to gain this? By being patient. What does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say? With the patient. If you don't know how to be patient, look to the deen. Like I said, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has everything for you. Be patient. If you're sometimes if you're in an argument with somebody and somebody is shouting and you're not retaliating, and I've seen this done, and I've experienced it myself. And if somebody's shouting and the other person's not retaliating, what happens? The other person feels a little barbaric and they feel silly because they're the only one who are, going off. So what happens? This voice starts lowering, they start coming down, and eventually they just feel stupid because you're screaming and the other person's not retaliating. The patience is a very powerful tool. When your child feels like they're not agitating you or aggravating you, and it's going to be hard, but Islam says patience is such a powerful tool. Again, the wisdom behind it is so powerful. If you have it, you will realize half of the battles you win easily. But getting to that stage is what you need to work on. Now, opposition, if some teenagers go through this period, right, without much anger, a few rough patches during which they want to change some rules that were not adapted to their age, but others are often in opposition and they try to provoke their parents by being arrogant as possible. But again, you're going to have to understand, you're going to have to adapt things according to ages. Of course, many parents have difficulty accepting that their children reply with so little care and they refuse to do what they ask of them. And, I'm not trying to make it look easy. It's annoying, humiliating, and stressful because you feel like you're losing control and you're no longer capable of keeping your children safe at a moment when they are taking more and more risks. But again, it's that age and security cooperation, because we do not want our child to be happy only when we're away. So the best thing to do is talk with them, explain your decisions, the risks you're not willing to take, and find common grounds on some aspects, such as if your child wants to go out, what time will you be going? Where will you be going? What will be the means of commuting? Are you biking it? Are you walking it? Is it close enough to walk? Do you consider these things as help? Facebook, somebody might say, we want to go on Facebook. Mobile phones. talk to them, speak to them, right? What will happen? Okay, but you will. There's only so much you're going to hold them. They will go to these things, social networking sites and things. So since you like, if let's say for instance your teenager was with the movies or the park with his friends or hers, obviously they don't want to be taking mom and dad with them. So it's wise to think about your limits beforehand. Before talking to your child, think about things that must be decided. So you're going to ask yourself, right, who are they going to be allowed to go with? And when are they going to go? How late? And what time? Get it fixated. And if you're naturally anxious, if they don't have a phone, you can ask them, so, you want to take my phone in case of emergency or something? Or did your friend have a phone? Or talk to them. And, maybe you can say, look, in an hour, could you send me a message? Or do you want me to pick you up? Good communication will minimize the risk of conflicts. There's no point you wallowing away in your misery. Speak to them. Come to terms. Make them realize you're making a compromise. So are they. You have to find. They won't compromise if they can't see it. If you don't show them what it is and you don't explain to them, they won't know what to do. They will behave as they see. And so online presence, again, you're going to have to keep an eye on the interactions. I'm not saying don't, but find a line, find a limit, find education, and educate yourself and make your prayers. So in short, adolescents feared by most parents because it's a period of adjustment. So don't think you're the only one, because for them and for us, and everything that concerns freedom and relationships. Now, the more you talk to your child and explain your values and beliefs, the more he will be inclined to trust you and know how to make you proud. But these start from a younger age. Now, your relationship will help them through what this is. And look, it is the most difficult yet fulfilling periods of life. We've all been there. And although we're not going to always prevent your grumpy and turbulent child from having hard times, you will at least know that you've tried your best and trained your patience in the process. But do remember, every teen is unique. They are different. They require a different approach. Now, if your teen is responsible and diligent student and they have well-adjusted peers, you might be willing to send them to certain places or certain activities because you have that more trusting nature with them, so you might be better adjusted to them. But on the other hand, if your teen's showing more signs of impulsiveness and development, they're showing you they're not ready to be on their own with unrestricted freedom. Now you have to strive to see what the best qualities of your teenager are. What is their uniqueness? Where does it lie, and help them find it? And it's best you could do for the teen. That's the best thing you could do for the teen you love. Now, these teen years are hard for every adolescent, but some teens have more problems than others. Now, if your child seems to be struggling with extreme emotional distress or other issues, you will need to get them help as soon as possible. And when I say help, people assume go to, again, Western medicine, Western psychology, counseling. But I will warn you here. When you take your child to the Western psychology and counseling, what they teach is when they have ideas and thoughts, let them express them, encourage them. So if a child comes to you and says, my parents are doing such and such, or I feel trapped in my body. Remember, gender dysphoria, they will encourage this. Oh, okay. And they'll say, my parents are stopping me. And they'll say, why? Because of religion. Oh, okay. Now, is this religion something do you believe in this, or do you believe in it because they've told you to believe in it? Maybe they believe in it and they're passing it on to you, they're enforcing it upon you. You don't have to do this because they want to, only because they believe in the religion. Then they're going to make that child question, do you actually want to go onto the religious path? Are you even religious? You can make that decision yourself. Your parents don't. Then they're going to plant seeds in it. This is why, and I realized when I did this course, at what age I did it in, and I realized why I did not do it in my youth, because Allah SWT saved me. Because this is the Satan's work. When you say, right, okay, and are you right? Only because you are what you are. If your parents can't accept you, then that's their problem. You need to basically go and make your life on your own. And if you're a male trapped in a female body, of course, things are getting more absurd and absurd as we're nearing the time of Qiyamah. Obviously, judgment he will not be far, as we can see from these. This is what they will encourage your child to do. I know somebody who married out of their faith, and they were feeling guilt because the deen in them, fitna in them would not allow them to move on. So they did regret it. And what did she do when they went to the psychologist? The psychologist said, but why is this important to you? Because you've always been told, your parents have put this in your head. Satan's handiwork. They're being devil's advocate. So I would say if you are challenged or your teen is challenged, I suggest to look into Islamic counseling. Why would I suggest Islamic counseling? Because here you can, and it's not just for your child, it's for you as well. If you are lost, you need the skills. If you don't have the skills, you will not be able to raise your child properly. Now, because counseling, it gives you an ability to share your emotions with others, especially with teenagers, adolescents, because their fear of being judged and misunderstood, and they overstep the barrier. So they can give new skills to them. They can sort of allow them, but keeping within the Islamic restrictions, alhamdulillah. Communication skills, they give them different number of people, groups, different stages. They express their own lives, and they're telling you how. They're even going to speak about body language, openly, how it affects time management skills, improving skills, things that affect their personal life and relationship, understanding the impact of poor time management skills, decision-making abilities, reducing hesitation, wasting time and choosing options, because that's, again, the devil's handiwork, wasting time. But cooped with the psychological and Islamic reasoning, they can help. Coping with stress, identifying sources of support, changing perspective, and questioning own beliefs. Because this is the age, by the way, they question, oh, I hate it. Why do I have to do this? Why do I have to go to Taraweeh? Why do I have to pray? I don't want to fast. I don't want to wear my clothes. And this is the time the Western psychology will say, you don't have to do this. And they will help them question their own beliefs. They will encourage it. So Islamic counseling won't, inshallah, do that. They'll improve self-confidence, self-esteem, and they will discuss potential obstacles and challenges. So as a parent, you suffer when your children suffer and they struggle. So you need to take care of your mental health. If you want to be emotionally strong enough to provide your teen with the support and guidance they need. So you need to talk to an Islamic counselor for support as you navigate your teen's adolescence and all the challenges it brings. Now, online therapy happens on your schedule and at your convenience. With the right help, you can see your teen through this trying time in a way that works for you. So I'll finish off with the final note. Be careful of people who are advertising as Islamic counseling. The people who have gone to psychology and counseling before the deen are finding it hard to revert, because when something is set in your head, you will not, it's so impossible to move away from all these theories, and it's hard. And I would say, please get a personal recommendation from the Sheikha. She is well aware of Islamic counselors and psychologists, and she knows some Islamic counselors who are under Islamic title, but still very Western. Last one says, we were advised in the deen, if you have bad, obviously, Sheikha, please do step in with the hadith when you get a moment, because you are more knowledgeable, alhamdulillah. There is a hadith where the companion said, we have thoughts, coals can burn, to something to that effect. But they advised, don't voice them. Do not voice the bad thoughts. And what does the Western psychology and counseling say? Oh, tell me about it. Let's talk about it. No, Islam says don't talk about it. There's a reason, don't talk about it. So please do go to the Sheikha. She will advise you accordingly of the right help that is available. Her being having studied Islamic psychology and counseling herself, she is well aware, and she has very restrictive guidelines. So she will adhere. She doesn't she times people in court according to that. So she won't recommend just anybody to you. She will recommend them based on what she's seen and heard and what she thinks is most beneficial in terms of the deen for you. Lastly, people, I would like to say to you, briefly, I need to quickly mention the shows people this had brought to my attention, but people are this Turkish TV program people are watching and making the children watch. It's not Islamic, it's not religious. Yeah, it might be based on historical Muslim character, but showing them this show is not doing your work for you. It's not giving them the deen. What you're doing, there's age ratings on movies for a reason. I've done psychology. You don't understand the psychological effects this can have on your child and will have on your child, what it does. I know we're running out of time and I need to finish this up. It is a very important topic, but I really need to discuss. Stop making your children watch things that are not suitable. Only because somebody says, mashallah, subhanallah, alhamdulillah, and Allahu Akbar, does not mean this show is giving your child deen and Islam. It's not. The violence, I had to proof it to see, and I was shocked that people think it's okay. You're allowing your child. Do you understand the violence that is sitting into your child's head? How easily they could be brainwashed. They cut their hands. The child doesn't understand when they're watching a scene how that's going to impact. They can easily be brainwashed by anybody extremely. It's because you're already putting this in their mind. The subconscious, the violence and aggression in their head at a young age. It's too soon, it's too quick, and it's too deep. Parents, wake up. Understand age ratings. Understand you previewing things before you just throw them in. Look at what you're doing. How are you doing things? Okay, I'll stop there. Thank you very much, Sheikha. I apologize, I ran a little through, I think. And Assalamu
No problem, sister. MashaAllah. Jazakumullah khair for your input. We've had some positive feedback on Facebook. I know you just need to dash for a few minutes. If you come back, I'll collect the questions for you, inshallah. Just let me know when you are back. Okay, alhamdulillah. MashaAllah, Jazakumullah khair for the insight to psychology. Inshallah, what we're going to do is speak about now. Sorry, we've gone through all these conflicts, inshallah. We've talked about understanding teen, and then the psychologist went through Islamic counseling solution. I'll be doing some closing words, so I'll just finish off with a few words, inshallah, and then we'll have some questions for the psychologist here. Jazakumullah khair, okay. So what I would like to start off with saying is the psychologist really talked about embedding certain values within your teenagers. And this brings us to the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, who said that the most perfect believer in respect of faith is the one who is best of them in manners. So you have to think about your mannerisms. And this is what the Prophet ﷺ has come and tried to perfect for us, inshallah. We're going to then, inshallah, move on to responsibility. What is the responsibility laid upon us from Islam or from what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put on us? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us that every one of us is responsible for something. The Khalifa is responsible for the people, and he will be questioned towards his subjects. And a man, he is a guardian over the members of his family, and he will be questioned about them, the general family. So he has to look after their physical and moral well-being. Whereas a woman is a guardian over the household of her husband and his children, and she will be questioned about them and how she managed the household and the children. And then the slave obviously will be questioned about the master. This responsibility really tells us what is our role within the family structure. So the husband, the man of the house, is responsible overall of his household and the physical and the moral well-being. Whereas the woman is the teacher. She's the teacher of her children. So she needs to teach those values, embed them. But that doesn't mean that the father is neglectful, because the Prophet ﷺ said it is sufficient sin for a man that he neglects him who he maintains, meaning his family is the one he maintains. So he needs to not neglect that responsibility, because he will be questioned about that. The Islamic identity. What is the Islamic identity? One of the rarest, the Islamic identity for children. We have lots of books on mannerism and etiquette. And if you could get the Mufrad al-Adab, it's a very good book by Imam al-Bukhari to really give your children the mannerisms and etiquettes of Islam. But one of the striking hadith the Prophet ﷺ has told us is, command your children to pray at the age of 7, and then obviously beat them lightly. That doesn't mean start to become violent, and obviously take in consideration the country you are in. Of course, in Islam, it has never been recommended to use physical force. And you know, the Prophet ﷺ told us not to use force, not to bruise, and it's more like a symbolical beating. But here we are told to spank lightly, spanking lightly. But again, take in consideration the laws of your land. Please do not go and start beating your children. This is not what the hadith has said at all. It's light spanking if you are allowed to do that, which was allowed in the previous time. So previously it was allowed to do it. This hadith still stands valid today. We're not changing the meaning or reinterpreting it, but I'm asking you to take in consideration the location that you live in, just in case you do not get in trouble. But yes, the light spanking is being allowed for a child who is refusing to pray. So praying, it is really important. Have you laid the foundations down for your children? Do they know the importance of Salah? If they do not, please take advantage of CLD's website. Go on there, download the Salah course for children and do the course with your children. They will understand the regards. There's a really good, it's a complete activity book. Do the activities with them. There is a checklist. Let them demonstrate their rukus, the sujuds, and tick off. You make the siblings or friends work together, you know, really create an activity at home, invite their friends and you roll this activity out. It's very interactive. I've run it before, and mashallah, it's the children that are, you know, fixing their salah. They're understanding how to pray, but you're not teaching it and you're not delivering it in the right way. So make the salah an important part of your life. Designate an area and you know, pray with them. I know that many times I tell my nieces and nephews to come and pray, and I nag them and it doesn't happen. But once I stand there, they'll come and join me automatically. Pray in front of them. Let them see you pray rather than you telling them to pray. The last point on this hadith is arrange their beds separately. Really, this point is, subhanAllah, very important. Why? You need to really think about their beds and you need to separate them. This is a time where you need to start showing them that they are now growing up, and as the psychologist mentioned, the importance of aura. Get them to understand the importance of aura. Make sure they are not changing in front of each other. If it's mixed siblings, make sure they're not taking baths together anymore. Make sure that their beds are separate, because this is the time where the shaitan can infect ideas into our head, implement ideas into our head, infect us with diseases that are outside of the deen, inshallah. Moving on to the Islamic identity, the psychologists really spoke about an identity, nurturing iman and learning levels of faith. There are 3 levels of faith. There's Muslim, Mu'min, and then you go into the Muhsin, which is the Muttaqeen level included in that. What are the different levels of faith? Talk to your children about it. Again, a course book is available on CLD website for free download. Please download the workshops. Download the course books. They're all course books developed as a former lecturer. I'm still a lecturer, so as a former university lecturer, college lecturer, who's taught to lots of different age groups, and a qualified assessor. I always, you know, plan all my resources from scratch and using authentic Islamic knowledge. So you are getting best of both worlds. You're getting good quality Islamic knowledge, inshallah, because it's fully referenced. The hadiths and the ayats are given to you in those documents. And also you've got the academic interactive way of teaching. So download them and inshallah start teaching your children and make it fun for them, and run local classes within your community. Please teach them obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala first and foremost. If you do not, this is when they will go off the reins. This is where they will start to make or be so easily indulging into sin, or diverting from the straight path. So obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the most important aspect, because even in your absence, they will be obedient. When your backs are turned and you cannot monitor them, this is when the obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala comes into play, because of the fear and the love of Allah, knowing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is watching them. Talk to them about taqwa and ihsan. Tell them what is God consciousness. Do we understand God consciousness? As the psychologist rightly said, please start to educate yourself, because the Prophet ﷺ told us it's obligatory on us to seek knowledge. And why was it obligatory? Because as we saw previously, the husband and the wife have a responsibility of the household, and they have a responsibility towards their children. So if you do not have the knowledge, then how can you pass on the knowledge? They need to be taught about taqwa, the consciousness of God. I've run this with my local children in the mosque, and I asked them, if in a school your teacher was in the classroom, or your head teacher comes, what is your behavior like? And they said to me, very good, we would be on our best behavior. And I said, and if they left the classroom, what would be your behavior like when nobody could see? And they said it'd be completely different. We would be messing around, and we would just play, and we wouldn't be doing any work. And that's because they're not being monitored. But what you want to do, because you want to understand that you will not be able to monitor your children 24 hours a day. So that's the time when your back is turned. The obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala now needs to come into play. And this, inshallah, should act as a barrier to lots of sins that they may want to do, but the fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will hold them back, inshallah. And this is far greater than the fear of the parents. The fear of the parents should be there, but ultimately fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Advice of Luqman as-salam: read the Quran with them. Read the advice of Luqman as-salam. The first advice he gave to his son was the worship of Allah. Okay, worship of Allah. He said, worship of Allah. The biggest dhulm, the biggest wrongdoing is shirk. So lay the foundations down. The children that I've taught, my nieces and nephews, they already have a very clear idea about Tawheed and Shirk. They know what is the difference between Tawheed al-Rububiyyah, Shirk al-Rububiyyah, Asma wa Sifat and Ibadah, Shirk, Shirk and Tawheed in both aspects, different types of Shirk showing off, and so on. If you haven't taught them, again, please make sure that you are downloading this information from the website. We have the course called Aqidah or Tawheed on there. Tawheed, which is for children. There are bubble diagrams, and you can do activities with them. Your wealth and your children. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has said to us that the wealth and the children, okay, they are a test for you. He says, Innama amwalukum wa awladukum fitnah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling you they're a trial, they're a test for you. So make sure that if you see anything that is difficult for you, ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for help. He can help you with this test. Instill good habits and activities, teach them the values. So the hadiths have recommended we teach them archery, swimming, wrestling, horse riding. Make them active. Get them to do things, inshallah, because that's where they learn values from. Don't teach board games that have negativity. So I know I've seen a board game, and it says telling lies up to the truth. So it's really about investigating the suspicious person. In this is about interrogation, about interrogating who is about one of those mystery games, so the mystery, who's the mystery killer, or who's the mystery person that's responsible for something, and the person who is guilty will start to lie, and it says lie all the way to the truth. Now it may seem like a harmless board game, but what does it do? It's basically teaching you to lie. And we should be really teaching our kids the honesty and the truthfulness that they should be adhering to. Minimize the virtual world. As the psychologist said, monitor what the children are watching. If you have given them free access to TV in their room, this is the biggest mistake we could be doing, because we are no longer able to monitor what they are watching. Children are living in a virtual world, so they are playing games and watching telly most of the time, and they do not integrate with the main activities, the physical activities, which doesn't build up their stamina, which is not healthy or stimulating. Virtual reality is not the best way to nurture your children, because all they are getting is, lots of virtual ideas embedded in their head, and no real values or good habits that can help them or set them for life. So please try and minimize that. I know that today we have a big emphasis on virtual world, but please do not neglect those activities that Islam has put great value on. And there are great fun activities. Your children will love them if you just, put them on these clubs that run them. Gender roles. Men are the protectors of women. Men are the protectors of women. And what are the women? They are the guardians. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says to us, الرجال قوامون على النساء بما فضل الله. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given the men more strength over the women and made some of them excel, made them excel over them. Why? Because of their responsibility. They are responsible for the household. They are the breadwinners, and they need to take care of their children and their women and their well-being and their financial needs. And the Prophet ﷺ said, this is sadaqah for you. The man who takes care of his family, and every, even the morsel of food he puts in the mouth of the child, the morsel, is the sadaqah for him. Active roles models. Are you an active role model for your child? Who can be a role model? You as a parent need to be a role model. A father has to be a role model to his son, and a mother has to be a role model to her daughter. So are you really good role models? Question that. Are you adhering to the deen? Are you lying in front of your children? Because if you are lying, then they're going to lie. So you can't expect them to tell the truth. When we start fibbing and we start, even as children, if we start saying to them, oh, don't do this, you're going to be, there's a monster in the closet, please don't go there. You are teaching them that it's okay to lie. You're okay to, even if you want children not to do something because it's due to safety, or be crystal clear, be honest as possible, because honesty is the best way to achieve anything. If you're going to achieve things with lying, that's what you're teaching them, that it's okay to lie. And we know that the hadith of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, any person who lies, they begin to lie till Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has written them as a liar. Do not lie even for a joke. And this is what I always tell the children, do not lie even for a joke. Again, I would say, please go and buy the book, Al-Adab al-Mufrad. I know that I did an activity where my niece, she did something, and I asked her to go and find a hadith about that, so relating to that, maybe relating to gossiping, maybe relating to lying. Research that hadith with them and sit there and talk to them about it. Have a lesson once a week. Don't overboard them, but have a lesson with them once a week. The Islamic identity is really about instilling identity and personality at a very early age. And this is what the psychologist was talking about, trying to rear that in early age. It will be difficult to do it with the teens if you haven't started at an early age, but it's not impossible, okay? Make sure that you are prioritizing Islamic identity over nationality, ethnicity. Your communication, there is a hadith here with the reference, if you like to check that up. The Prophet ﷺ had a boy on his right side, and an elderly person sat on his left side. In Islam, the priority of giving, the Prophet ﷺ got a cup of a milk or water, and he drank from it, and he wanted to give it to the elderly person because of age. So respecting him for the age factor. But the one who was sitting on the right has more right for the cup to be passed to him. So the Prophet ﷺ turned to the boy and said, would you mind if I pass this cup to the elderly person? And the boy refused, saying that I don't want to give up the right of taking something from the Prophet ﷺ and giving it to somebody else. So the Prophet ﷺ gave him the cup. What does that show us? That shows us that good communication. The Prophet ﷺ talked to a child, asked his permission, sought his permission, because it was his right as the person sat on the right side. The person sat on the right side takes precedence over the person sat on the left side. But the Prophet ﷺ wanted to give it on the left side because of age. So he had to turn to the right and ask the child's permission. So when we think of taking a child's permission for something, we think that that's horrifying. But by doing that, you're teaching them something important, an important lesson. And in turn, they will start to learn to take permission of you. You have to lead by example. When we portray obedience in the home, when the wife obeys her husband as he should be obeyed in boundaries, and obviously it's not when he asks you to do something against the deen. Excuse me. Okay. Portray the obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If you were obedience to Allah and your obedience to each other, so the husband and the wife are obedient to each other and they listen to each other, they consult each other, and they are obedient to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you are showing your child obedience. But if you are arguing and disobeying and defying each other's rules and displaying this type of behavior in the house, then the children will emanate or imitate that behavior. Kissing your children, as the psychologist kindly mentioned, it is a mercy. Once some Bedouins came and they said, you kiss your children, we've never kissed ours. And the Prophet ﷺ said, if Allah has taken the mercy out of your heart, what can I say? This is a mercy. Kissing children is a mercy. Some younger companions, they narrated, we used to sit on the lap of the Prophet ﷺ and he would stroke our head and pray, oh Allah, show them mercy as I have shown them mercy today. Teach them about charity, empathy, justice, and value of food. Teach them the etiquettes, about giving. Tell them about charity. Tell them how lucky they are. What have they got? Tell the children to be thankful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala rewards gratitude with more. The more you are grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the more you will get. Teach them about empathy. Empathy leads to a sound heart. Remember, the dead heart is the heart which loses all empathy. Talk to them about justice. So they become, when they grow up, they learn about justice. They begin to be just. They go out into the real world and they think about being just with other people and with their peers. Value of food, a very important one. We are wasting food on a daily basis. Really think about the food. Tell your children, you could plate up a second, third time. Please plate up what you can eat. And lead by example. If we're wasting food, then children will also waste food. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is kind, He loves kindness, and He rewards for kindness in a way that He does not reward for harshness. So please this is a Hassan hadith from Ahmad. Please make sure that you are not harsh in even telling them off. Yes, we need to rebuke them. We need to tell them off. We need to reprimand them from time to time. But do it in a kind manner. Ask them in an assertive manner. I do not appreciate the way you have just spoken to me. This is unacceptable. Have that type of tone rather than coming down on them in a harsh manner. The rights of children are the right to be breastfed, right to provision and protection to adulthood, right for inheritance, right to paternity, which basically means even if you adopt, you should not change the name of that child because they have a right to know where they have come from, right to good education, and right to the values and morals that you could teach them. Rights of parents are to be respected and obeyed, rights to be reprimanded and rebuked. So you have the right to reprimand and rebuke them, but then also you need to look at yourself and reprimand yourself and rebuke yourself if you are not being the parent that you should be. Right to kind behavior and good words, but you can only receive that if you in turn give kind behavior and good words to them. Right to be looked after. You have the right to be looked after by your children. They should take care of you, and this is where you have to teach them the advice from Luqman as-salam. There is a very detailed advice of Luqman as-salam, and he says in that advice, respect your parents, especially your mother, who bore you upon weakness. So Luqman as-salam in this in this ayah, he's talking about advising the child first to obey Allah, to then respect and honor the parents, and then to know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has said that any knowledge he can bring, even if it was under a rock. What is that teaching children? That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has knowledge of everything, he sees everything. So children are conscious of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then the ayah in turn talks about how to walk on earth. It even tells the children how they should be behaving. The behavior is now addressed in the ayah. How should you walk? Do not be proud. Do not be arrogant. A lot of children become very proud and arrogant. Please teach them humbleness at this age. Minimize negativity. Anas, who said, I served the Prophet for 10 years. He never said, oof, and never blamed me by saying, why did you do so? Why did you not do this? Children will make mistakes. If they are minor mistakes and not something that threatens their safety, we do not need to keep reprimanding them. We do not need to tell them off for every little thing they've done. We can ask them, oh, you've done this, please can you not do this, and do it in this manner. We don't need to tell them off every time they make a mistake. He talked about the Prophet, he said, the Prophet was very soft and in his approach, and he would not even say, the least thing you could say is off. And this is again something that's mentioned by Luqman Islam in his advice: do not say off to your parents, do not say off. And this, when you're teaching them, you are teaching them what is the requirement, what has Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asked them, the requirement of their behavior towards parents, but also teach them that Allah, the Prophet has asked you to show mercy and kindness to children. And they will feel like you are following a balanced rule. So say to them, today I have attended a webinar. And in that I have learned that my right as a parent is to give you good education, to make sure that I provide for you, I give you provision, I give you food, I clothe you, I take care of your needs. I nurture you, I treat you with the kindness, I kiss you, I show mercy with you, I hug you. This is what I have to do. This is what I'm going to change about myself. But my rights as a parent are these, and this is what you need to be doing this. Today, inshallah, or tomorrow, we're going to go through the story of Luqman Islam to see what is the type of behavior you should be teaching them. But again, if you're not teaching them the obedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala or Tawheed, then this is the first thing that you need to be doing. Developing children or teens, obviously, don't be impatient, don't show negativity. There shouldn't be any blame. Develop children, teens with consultation, be responsible, independent, create an Islamic environment, establish salah in the home, pray so they pray with you, teach them daily du'as for entering the bathroom and coming out and eating, teach them etiquette of eating, eating with the right hand, eating with what's nearer to them, eating with the basmalah, emphasize on iman, build on the levels of iman, knocking before entering. The children should knock their parents' room before they enter a certain time of the day. And when evening falls, this is the etiquette of Islamic manners. They should be knocking. Again, we've talked about empathy. Neural cells are expanded with activities, not passive learning. So if they are always playing games, and if they are sat on TV, they are and you think that they are not intelligent, it's because you are not allowing them to expand neural cells. Neural cells are expanded with education, learning, and developing. How do they do that? Let them read the English Quran. Let them read the English Quran. Let them understand it, get an easy read, and let them be. And subhanAllah, I will tell you from experience, the intelligence level shoots up. If you want your children to be intelligent, get them to read the Quran. Don't let them do less passive learning. Passive learning is where they don't use their mind or neural cells, where they're not being used. And that's when you are playing computer games or watching telly. On average, children are watching 4 hours up to telly, and that's too much. Having friends for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the psychologists have talked about that really nicely, saying that a child whose heart is attached to the mosque will be under the shade of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when there is no shade. And also those friends who meet for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they also will be under the shade of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when there is no other shade. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in the Quran that there will be a time in the hereafter when the people who are being punished for their wrongdoing, they will bite their fingers in regret and say, ew, oh, woe is to me, would that I had not taken so-and-so as a friend. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us that we will be in utter regret because of the friends we have taken. And tell your children that, start teaching them, especially the teens, tell them that you will regret the friends you are taking. If you are following friends or you are in the company of people who are bad, they will affect you in a bad way. Remember the Prophet ﷺ, he said, the good friends are like the musk seller and the bad ones are like the blacksmith. So you will take on your clothes if you sit with them, depending on who you sit with. So the musk seller, you will smell like musk, where the blacksmith, you will not smell like musk, you'll smell like smoke. So think about the effect or impact your friends will have and teach them that they will regret it. And don't forget, the friends of Abu Talib on his deathbed were his friends who advised him not to accept the Shahada. The Prophet ﷺ gave dawah to his uncle. And he, just as the Abu Talib looked like he may have been inclined, his friend said, are you really going to leave the deen of your forefathers? And he submitted to his friends and he died as a non-believer. What happened? His friends, the peer pressure affected him, even at that age. And this is what happens when your friends guide you to the wrong path. Tell your children already about this, the importance of keeping good company, as the psychologist has said. Jazakumullah khair for listening. I do appreciate your time. Inshallah, we will start to take questions from myself or the psychologist. So if there's any questions, I will start to, inshallah, take them now, inshallah. So any questions from Facebook? Let's have a look. Psychologist, for the psychologist, any questions, inshallah? Right, okay. Questions, answer session is now open. Jazakumullah khair.
Also, whilst we're waiting, if I may, Sheikha.
Yes.
All right. So yeah, if I may, I wanted to bring up another topic of when I saw your slide. Alhamdulillah. Like I said, if you want to succeed in rearing your children right, please look to the deen. And like the Sheikh mentioned in the slide, the extra additional activities, for instance, swimming, archery, and I think there was something else as well. You promote this with your children. What's happening now? It's like when I was saying the identity crisis, their self-image, all these problems. Because yes, I'm sorry, as parents, people are not only not feeding their children right, they're not even promoting good activities. I know how many times are kids in weekend clubs or after school clubs. I knew of a parent who said her daughter, and this daughter was under the age of 8. So her daughter, she enrolled her into a martial arts class. And this daughter had some great skill, apparently, and she was doing really well. And all of a sudden she stopped. And the mother turned around and she said, oh, yes, she doesn't want to stop playing video games. And it was surprising when somebody narrated this to me and I said, so this 8-year-old is dictating where her life is going. So why is this, parents, then why are these type of parents are saying at the age of 11 and 13 in their teens, the adolescence years, they're not listening. You've taught them, they're dictating to you at such a young age. Why are tables going to change all of a sudden? That child has told you, by the way, I want to spend time playing video games. Oh, she doesn't want to get up. If you can't control a child at that age, why should that child be listening to you in their adolescent teen years? What do you think is going to happen? You've not put any restrictions, you've not put any rules in. Why have you given her the choice? Why is there not a timetable? They go to school, they're capable of following a timetable. They go to school, this is registration, this is this lesson, this is break time now. After break time, everybody has to line up and get into. They are capable of listening to rules. You're not putting them in place, parents. You're not putting them in place. You're not doing anything for them. And then when they go through depression and anxiety because you haven't done your job as the caregivers, You have not given the care appropriately because you didn't have the time. You didn't have the patience. You couldn't dedicate. And I know there was a sister who told me, she goes, she was talking about this brother. She said they have restrictions. She put restrictions on internet and TV. So she can put it on internet as well. So basically, if a child goes onto the internet or even like TV, she's got restrictions. The child won't come across anything adult content, and they won't be able to research any adult content or come across some videos that are just too grown up for them. And she's got the youngest, who's 4, and she's done that on his separate iPad, and she's given him time. But what happened? The brother wanted access. He said, "Oh, take the restrictions off because I need to watch this film." And I think it was a Vida. Basically, it was a little bit above the age level. And she said, "I'm not going to take the restrictions off the internet because of this reason, because of the children." Now, what happens is parents feel like, oh, if I put restrictions on, I won't be able to access my shows. I won't be able to access my things. Put a password on, put something on. But you're going to have to make that tiny bit of effort every time you want to watch something, because obviously it's too important. God forbid we not, forego watching it. I understand that, some adults have this dire need to completely watch these things, but at least have the sense to put a password on, which you can put on and off, because you're in your need and desire to watch this or see this, you are allowing the restrictions to be off. Yeah, no, they'll be off. And I know somebody who had them on from 8 or 9 in the evening. They were off till about 6 in the morning, because they know but these people have made the effort to take all technology away. They don't have iPads, they don't have access to TV. They said this is the child's, because they actually had a sleeping routine, and they said so the child doesn't watch anything at this point, so it's okay, 18 plus, like any violent. And it's not just I'm not talking about porn or anything. I mean, maybe some people need to watch that, but that's fine. Not fine, but I mean, there's adult content, like in terms of violence, aggressive movie or something, but that was allowed at that time. But as a parent, you're going to have to get up and make that effort. See, what happens, you don't put that time and you don't put that effort in, you allow your child to dictate to you, I will be watching TV, I'm not going here, I won't be taking the extra after clubs, after school or weekend clubs, because I want to play. And the parents are like, yeah, it's too cold, I can't take them. You prioritize yourself and you leave this child to become lethargic, obese, limited mind. Then you want them to be successful all of a sudden and listen to you at age 13. I'm sorry, parents, it's not going to happen. You don't put the time in now, they're not going to put the time in then. And you have to look for Deen. Okay. Deen is the answer.
Okay, Jazakallah khair. We have one question, inshallah. Yes. So somebody has asked, their 11-year-old is already acting like a teenager.
Right.
So the question is, if I could just read it out.
Yes.
It says, could you please let me know how to deal with my 11-year-old acting like a teenager?
Oh, is that it? There's nothing specific?
No, nothing.
Okay. Well, again, acting like a teenager, yes, it's inevitable. Like I said, I know of this 11-year-old is probably already a little mature. They're seeing things and doing things. You're going to have to stop and see yourself. What are you creating? What have you? Why is this child acting the way it is? Have you put restrictions? How are you or your spouse acting? What is the family environment like? Is it dysfunctional family? What are you providing? Are there etiquettes and manners and rules that are being followed in your home? Is there a certain regime you follow? Because this is the child acting out for a reason. And I'm saying they're not going through the hormonal changes as yet, but they are going through other things. But from here, we can realize, because it's not physical as much, because teens go through, like I said, hormonal, physiological and neurological changes. So sometimes the kids, younger kids can go through certain things, but they're not going through that a lot. So here, I would say it wouldn't be a lot to do with the physical side, but a lot of the environment you are providing, the people around him, the company he's choosing. He's clearly seeing something, or even that people don't understand the media, the TV these kids watch. It stays with them. And I mean, you didn't ask me a specific problem. So, I mean, like you said, he's acting like a teenager. And like I said, under the teens comes a lot. So I don't know if you can be more specific if you want something, but yeah, but in general, I would say, look at your environment. What environment have you provided? And it's not going to do good to just wake up one day and say, right now, all of a sudden, I haven't told you about Deen. We're going to have to talk about Deen. I know somebody who used to try to make their kids watch Islamic lectures. But if you tell them, come on, let's watch something, they didn't come. So what she said, I was watching them on my own. And but she said she was watching this one speaker. But regrettably, I find that a lot of religious speakers aren't able to grasp the youth. But this one speaker was. He's quite influential. He can be very gripping in his speaking. And she said, I was just watching him and the kids came in and they just sat down because he had said something and that drew them in and they started watching it. And she said, I realized at that point that I didn't have to make this big hoo-ha, like, come and watch this, come and watch this. So I put it on and she said, all I did was make dua. I made dua and said, Ya Allah, help me raise these children properly. You know, the power of the tahajjud. I don't know if many of you know this, but Allah subhanahu this the tahajjud is for the pious people. This is where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala comes down to the lowest heaven and he says, which of my slave is asking me forgiveness so I may forgive him? Which of my slave is in need of something so I may give him? If you want to ask for, if you are in need and you are in trouble and you have made mistakes, we are human, we all make mistakes. You need help. You make that effort to wake up for tahajjud and you pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and you ask him, you beg him and you plead with him. He said, which of my slave is asking me something so I may give him? Do you understand the power of the tahajjud? Be in your prostration and ask him. Ask him for the guidance of your child. Yes, we can go to people and I can give you advice and I can say this and this. I can give you in accordance to Islam. But sometimes even when you go, I mean, you could be very, very good and go according to the rules, or you have made mistakes and you need to come back from these. Nobody can change your situation. Only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can. And what best time is it? I will say that again, the power the believer has is his dua. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given prescribed times. Do tahajjud. You know, fast. The prayer of the fasting persons will never be turned down. Understand what it means. Make a fast just so you can make dua. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says you won't turn a fasting person dua away. Get up to pray tahajjud. These are the times you ask for your prayers, duas, and wait patiently.
Thank you. We have another question. If I just may read it out to you, please.
Yeah.
It says, someone's asked, can you please advise on how to put punishment for teenagers when things go wrong? The person is saying that as we get to a point where taking electronics or restrictions don't work, I would beat her, but sometimes I'm completely stuck on how to guide. So she wants to know alternative punishments for restricting electronics. She's tried to put restrictions and tried to take them away. They're not working, and she's even tried beating as well.
I wouldn't recommend beating. As again, the Prophet ﷺ, do not you hit your child. I understand you're frustrated, you're angry, you're upset, and you're scared. And you do this, but what you're teaching that child is that child's building hatred, resentment. She doesn't love me, she hates me, she just wants me dead, she's trying to, it's going to manifest into something. No matter how, beating is not the answer. Islam tells us this. Rasul Sallallahu tells us this, so please do not. What I suggest, you're saying tech time. What I find with this youth of this today's age, everything of theirs is to do, their love is technology. I personally find the deduction of technology is the most powerful. And I see you say it's not, I don't know if it's not an option, because what is this child love? What is this child passionate about then? See, for instance, I believe in general, it is the youth nowadays loves that they can't survive without it. And if there's a problem, if you're not able to take your technology away from your child, and again, it just shows me that this child has been dictating what's been happening. So when the parents lose control, it's because they hadn't had any control. It's like I was just making reference to before when I said this lady had put her child into a weekend sports club, but this 7-8-year-old has decided she doesn't want to go anymore because she wants to, she goes, I can't get off video games. How can you not make a child get off? And I'm at a loss here. You go in and you say to the child, and again, so I will advise, please go for counseling. They will give you tools. So I can tell you here, you go in there and you tell your child, because a lot of things are involved in this. You'll say, okay, let me give you Hafsa. I'm going to name the girl Hafsa, yes? So you go in and say, Hafsa, we will be leaving in 5 minutes, or I would like you to end the game in 5 minutes. I want your technology. You have my 5 minutes. Give downtime. You know it's ending. You'll get, and then when you go, you'll say, right, you've got 2 minutes left, by the way. Give a little last minute call, like, you know, it's a last minute. You're letting that child know. Then you go in and say, I would like this now. I told you before. And the child will say no or retaliate or something. But this, as a parent, you will switch the TV off. You will disassemble something. You will take something. You are going to make an effort to have to stop the Wi-Fi. You will take the connection off. You have to do these things. I don't understand why your child won't give you the technology, because, and I'm assuming that's because they've dictated their childhood to you rather than you have dictating their childhood to them. So now they've got up to a point that they're holding the upper hand. But if you feel that it's not technology that's working, you have to possess that. You're going to have to take off the main source. You're going to have to take that internet off, change that password. And say, Hafsa, sweetie, when you listen to me, I will listen to you. Darling, it makes a two-way street. Let that child know. So when your behavior changes, you can earn your technology back. When your behavior changes, you can earn the Wi-Fi password back. Or if she loves something else, I know whatever her passion is, if she loves something else, but I don't see, like, for instance, I know somebody who used to take her child to horse riding. And she said, oh, I love the fact that she goes to horse riding and she loves it. And I said, but you have to deduct something she loves if her behavior. So she said, okay, she said, I haven't booked your horse riding session this week or next week. And she said, what? She said, because until your behavior has earned it, you will not get it. So find out what the child loves. Find out what the child wants. If you are giving an allowance to the child, then tell them, if you do not adhere to the rules, I will be deducting this. I will be deducting what they like. They have to, because I'll put a question to all you parents out there. We live in a society, we adhere to Allah SWT rules. We adhere to the rules of the country. Do any of you go and steal or publicly be violent, aggressive, or even the fact that we don't drink or free dating, or, you know, we don't participate in these haram activities, or even these breaking the law? Why do we not do this? Why? Because we fear consequences. We fear consequences of the hereafter of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we fear consequences of the human law here. When we break rules and laws of the country we are in, we will be imprisoned. So we don't want to be imprisoned, and the fear of the consequences will stop us from doing that. Make your child fear the consequences. Like, oh God, if I don't do that, great. If I don't do that, mom's going to change the password. If I don't do that, my horse riding lessons are going to stop. If I don't do that, my technology will be taken away. Why are you scared of taking technology away? I get it. If they don't give it to you freely and you don't want to get into this physical snatch and hit thing, you will say, you can either give it to me now, or I will have to go to the main source and change the password, or I will have to disconnect it's up to you. But you have to let them know. They're not going to think, oh, mom's just saying it, dad's just saying it. I know her kids who have said, oh, it's all right, after a bit they'll forget. Because what happens, and I know you don't forget, what happens is other things take priority, and they must have learned the lesson.
Psychology.
Sorry?
Yeah, can I just comment? She's not saying that it's not that she can't take it away. She does take the technology away, but it's not working.
Okay, well then take it away longer. Take it away longer. Don't let it be short-lived. And tell her, say, until I don't see a change in you, you haven't earned it back. Keep it away. Don't have a time limit.
And I think, sorry, the password one, that's a good one, isn't it? So change the password so you're in control of giving it when, or you could be in control when you give it to
and them. I can understand. Yes, and I can understand parents, you have other things to do and you don't really want to put the time and effort. It gets too much. Like sometimes you have to ring, make a personal password. It's too much, but you're going to have to put that time in. You're going to have to take a day out and say, you know what, everything else is going to put back. But this one action of mine, it might take me an hour or two. It might take 2 days. But this action of mine is giving a very strong message. And if you don't put this strong message in these years, you're losing importance. Obviously, you're not keeping the technology away longer. When the need and desperation comes for something, you are going to strive to be better. And obviously, if she's not getting her technology, she's not getting here, she will miss it. Don't take it away for 2 hours. Don't take it for 2 days. Keep it longer. And tell her, say, until I don't see a change, and we don't have to, but a parental thing is when we think we have to shout at them and scream at them, or we completely refrain from speaking to the child. And I know another thing, what people do in certain cultures is to just ignore the child when they're doing something wrong and misbehave. I'm saying, like, you've had your little tiff with the child and you've said, right, look, darling, the behavior is bad. I will be retreating this. I'll be taking things away until I don't see a positive in it. I won't be giving it back to you. But after that, don't begrudge the child. I don't grudge it. Try to move. That child is going to be in a sulk. They're going to act like they hate you. And of course, there's words that leave their mouth like, I wish you die. Of course, you know, they're angry and they're frustrated and they will be having that. But don't stoop to that level. Take it like an adult, take it like a responsible person, ignore it, and please speak to them. Have a chat to them. Let them know that you're not begrudging them. There's no grudge here. And have a chat to them. Be normal with them so they know that it's fine. I've done something. I'm getting a consequence, but my parent is not neglecting me or forsaking me. They haven't stopped loving me.
Okay, Jazakumullah, thank you. Okay. Okay, I think there's, inshallah, no more questions. If there's any questions on Zoom, you can type them now for me. I've got one question from the website, which I've asked. Just checking Facebook. I don't think there's any more questions, inshallah. So if there's no more questions, then we can close off.
I would like to leave one final thing for the parents then, if there's nothing else. Children, we are blessed with the Sheikha. MashaAllah, COD has launched this free Islamic knowledge. If you want to raise your children properly, go to Islam. Go to Islam. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has the answers. People do not have the answers. People don't. Islam has the answer. Deen has the answer. You will not find the answer until you do not research, until you do not find out. When people are you're taking your final exams. If you haven't researched or read your material, how will you know the answer? And if something is not happening and you are at a loss, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is testing you. He said, I'll test you with children, I'll test you with poverty, I'll test you with food. He will test you in certain ways. When you are at a loss, why do you not, you do not turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He says, turn to me, ask me. It doesn't mean, I'm not saying you only have to pray at the Tahajjud time. But even if he said, I hear the cries of the silent cries of my slave. He listens. Only he can make it better. What does it say in the Quran? Kun fayakun. When he says be, it is be. He has the power. Understand this. When you are at a desperate point and you feel at a loss, sister, if you're feeling at a loss with your daughter, go and pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Ask him, say, Ya Allah, what shall I do? Guide me. This is the power of the deen. This is the power of the believer. You are never alone. Let's say you can't have anybody to talk to. You have Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I always tell my clients, I said, you have a free counseling session. You go and do your counseling session with your Lord. Only He can make things better. Yes, people can advise you. I mean, I'll go to the Shaykh and I said, yeah, please tell me according to the deen, what does this say? I have to follow the path for me to succeed. If I don't follow Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's path, I will not succeed. If I don't follow His rules, I will not succeed. When the dentist tells you, for example, don't eat sweets, you get cavities, you get holes, you get broken teeth. If you do not follow her rules and you don't brush your teeth, you don't look after her, you will get tooth problem. You will lose teeth. And whose fault is this? Ours for not listening.
The doctor tells you, do not eat so much sugar, you will get diabetes. We stick sugar in. And then we cry, oh, we have diabetes. Because what? We didn't learn, we didn't listen. If Allah subhanahu was telling you, no, I know I've got a sugar, let's say I know I've got a sweet tooth, I'm going to eat sugar. I'm going to research, okay, how much sugar can I get away with before I end up hitting the diabetes? I need to know. Let me do my research. People go onto these courses, alhamdulillah, the deen, they made everything expensive. The Sheikha, mashallah, she gives according, it doesn't matter what school of thought you are following, what you do, everything she has launched is according to Quran and Hadith. No Muslim in any sect or any group, whatever group they are following, whatever heading they are under, whatever, I don't know what ghetto they're with, it doesn't matter, because no Muslim under any group can deny the Hadith or the Quran, and everything she has launched is according to the Quran and the Hadith. So it's applicable to all you people under all the headings of the Sufi, the Wahabi, or whatever else. I don't know how many other names there are. None of you can deny it. It's all from Quran and Hadith. Go and educate yourself. There's free Islamic education and literature. If you can't fight the Satan, how are you going to teach a child to fight it? You're not strong enough yourself. How are you going to make that child strong enough? Deen Islam will tell you how to create an ambience, how to create a family environment, how to teach manners. Children learn by watching you. I know a child who went with her grandma to the shop, and the grandma said, listen, I've only got £10, so don't go over the limit, because she didn't want her grandchild to overspend. And so she goes, we went to the counter and it went a bit over. And the grandma told me, she goes, it was a bit over. And she was the grandchild was about to put something away. And the grandma said, no, don't put it away. I've got it. And she pulled out something else. She goes, I understand why the grandma did this. Her intention was for her child not to overspend. But what did she do? She taught that child there to lie. That child said, oh, she said she didn't have the money, but she did. And she pulled it out. So what did she tell that other child? Lying. It's minor. It's something minute. We don't mind. Look, I did it for the right reason. There is no right reason. What you've taught that child is you can lie. It's acceptable. You stop and understand what you were saying. Now, even as a joke, you are telling somebody that you're teaching, these are the values you've put in this child. And then when they've grown up to a teenage level, like I said, if you lost control when they were very young and they've dictated, I'm not going after school club, I'm not doing this, I'm going to stay in. It's easier and more convenient. And I'm sorry for parents nowadays, because I can stay on. I know parents who rather sit there and watch YouTube on their own phone, watch shows, and don't care what the kid's watching. What age rating are these children watching? Do you know the effect this has, the psychological damage you are doing to your child when you are allowing to make them watch things that are above the age rating? And I knew of a sister who said to me, she said, her child was invited to a birthday party, and she said what it was, the child's friend is having a birthday, so the dads decided to take the kids to the cinemas, and they're going to just watch this movie. And she said, I said to the parent, oh, what age rating is it? And he said, and he got shocked. He was taken aback because he didn't check the age rating. He never checked it. He said it was just a comedy, so he was going to make him watch it. So what she did, now she was in a dilemma, and she came home and she said, she spoke to me about it, and I said, well, look at the preview of the movie. And just me, so we looked at the preview together, and it was a comedy, and we watched it, and he said, I know the age rating was a couple of years older than the child, and I was actually shocked because I thought, but it was a comedy movie, and there was nothing. That very rarely happens. So what I said to the parent here, I said, if you say no to the child, you cannot go, but you allow them to watch movies. You're telling them, because don't interject things and make them hate the deen. Now, this movie was fine. It was child friendly, and she did her home. She had to do her homework though. This is it. Laziness won't work here. I'm too busy won't work here. You're gonna have to take that step. So she made that step. She did the preview. We checked it together, and we said, right, it's fine. So that child was allowed to go. We didn't interject Dean. We didn't make him hate it. That, or because of this, you're not being able to do a friend group thing. The group of friends are doing, but I'm not saying only because everybody's doing something, you should do it. A child was going to another child. She had a birthday party, and it was in a pub. And the mom said, "Oh no, and I allow you to go to all the birthday parties, but this is in a pub." And the child said that she accepted it because She's under the age of 10. She accepted it. She was younger. And next time she had another friend who gave her an invitation. And she said, oh no, she was really excited when she came home. She goes, oh, but I got so excited. She goes, but then I realized it was in a pub. And she goes, so I can't go. There was no, because you embed these into them when they're children. Whatever's in, put the values down first. And learn the deen, only then. So I urge you, please, you have it at your hand. There is no excuse. And don't let your children control you. You're the dictator, you're the caregiver. Put rules and regulations and schedules in. It's easy to sit down and let them do what they want. And look, monitor what they are watching, what games are they playing, age rating. The age rating is there for a reason. It's going to psychologically completely mess them up. Please be cautious.
Okay, Jazakumullah khair, thank you. I think we can just finish off, inshallah. Okay, I think just one message, I think from the Facebook, from the website. I think that sister who asked about technology, she just says her daughter can occupy her with other things as well. But I think that she said she will try your suggestion of taking away something she loves, like the allowance, or, you know, as you said, that anything she loves, just to minimize that. And she said, thank you for your advice.
You're welcome, sister. But sister, I would like to say to you, I know of another girl, another sister who said this, her daughter does this as well. When she's taken her technology away and she sulks for a bit, but she'll entertain herself in other ways. But it does affect her. So whatever it is, please find her passion. You as her mother will know what I'm not saying take everything fun away from her and make her miserable. What's important to her, deduct that from her life. And clearly she will come to a point where she'll miss it more and she'll want it. So like I said, I mean, yeah, deduct it. And if it's not working, say, look, it's not working, so then take another step, deduct it. But please, dua is the answer. And inshallah, may Allah help you all and may ease your path for you all and guide you. Parenting is hard.
Yeah, okay. And the sisters asked, as I mentioned, the advice of Luqman Islam. She asked that if we could do a session on that. And inshallah, sister, if you're listening on Facebook now, I will launch a recording or something on the advice of Luqman Islam for his for the children. Inshallah, that will come soon. Just keep an eye on our Facebook, and please follow our Facebook so you know that when we run anything, it will be available on that. You can message us through Facebook as well. Funnily enough, the sister who's asked the question, her daughter is with her watching the show. So if a psychologist, if you'd like to say anything to the child.
Okay. I'd like to say to you, darling, you know, it's hard for parents. We are scared for you. We are scared of what's in the hereafter. We are scared. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves you, my darling. He loves you. That's why you are here. He loves you. If you need anything, you need help, you ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If you're struggling, speak to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He's listening. You don't have to raise your hands. You don't even have to talk out loud. You can be in bed and you can speak to him. Speak to him. Ask him your questions. Ask him for, but please, ask him, always pray one thing, ask you mother, daughter, Jewer, and every single Muslim there, pray for deen. So Ya Allah, let me live on the way of deen and let me die on the way of deen. Nothing else will be important. Darling, give your mom a break. If she's putting restrictions there for you, sweetheart, it's because she cares for you. She loves you. She's doing it because she loves you. It hurts. Children don't realize how much it hurts parents. You know, when we put these rules in, and we put restrictions in, it's not because we want to be mean or we just want to make your life hell. I know what you lot think. It's because we love you and we struggle so much. Parents struggle so much because we really want to show you what the right way is. You mother and daughter, I would say to you, look, if your mom's taking your technology away because of something you're doing, you're not listening, understand why she's doing it. Understand it. And I'd say, can you two do something together? Can you, I don't know if you both enjoy cooking, or I know with the COVID, we're not able to do a lot of things, but you can go for a walk. You can go to the park. You could push each other on the swings. Or you can have a cooking session at home, cupcakes or something new, something fun. do something together. Have your mother and daughter, you do face masks, make face masks. And I know somebody who made a great, they got some great recipes online, and they made these banana masks where they smelt of bananas or something, steaming or something. There's so many things you can do. Have time together, bond together, speak to your mom, ask her. She's there for you. She wants to help you. You can ask. No, you have to realize, no matter how, sometimes we'll be upset, we'll be disappointed, but your parent never stops loving you, because we can't. She will never stop loving you. She was always there for you. Speak to her, darling, and understand if she's asking you what, if you listen and you behave well, it's just going to strengthen your relationship. And speak to her. If there's something you don't like, and mom, please listen to her. Sit down and listen to her. What is it that she wants? What is it that's different? And when she tells you, explain to her why things can't happen. For example, if she's saying, Mom, I want to go to the park and I'm going to go at 4 o'clock, and you're saying, no, it's going to get dark and you're not old enough. And don't get into an argument. You tell Mom, listen. And Mom, please tell her why you don't want this. It's not because you're trying to control her or you hate her and you want to lock her away. It's because you're scared. Because of, I don't know if you heard, like I was reading, there was a newspaper article where 11-year-old girls got kidnapped. We as adults have fear. So we do this for a reason. Please understand each other. Mom, you have to listen to daughter and understand her. And daughter, you have to listen to mom. She's telling you things for a reason. We've lived life as well. But yeah, the communication is very important here. Do things together. Pray together. Read the Quran together. When you do these things together, inshallah, it'll help you bond. And ultimately, always make dua.
Jazakumullah khair, mashallah. I think that's very good advice for both mother and daughter, inshallah. What I would also just like to add is, like you said, just do things together, inshallah, get that bonding up. And, from an Islamic perspective, treat children with love and mercy, and for children to respect their parents. So the right the child has to be treated nicely and without harshness. Please don't beat her. Don't be harsh with her. As we read the hadith, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves kindness. So be kind to your daughter. Don't resort to beating, even though the hadith we saw is exclusively for praying, that you can do spanking for praying. If they refuse to pray, then you can spank them because of the severity of salah. The salah is a very important pillar. So for salah, you can do slight spanking. Unusual, please do not beat the children. Treat them with kindness and mercy. And in turn, if your daughter, she's still listening, your responsibility towards your parents is do not say off and obey them, because this is your Jannah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will question you, my sweetheart, about how you obeyed your mother. Remember, the Jannah lies in her feet. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, the Prophet ﷺ, someone came and asked, who is more deserving of my respect? And the Prophet said, your mother. He said, who next? He said, your mother. He said, who next? He said, your mother. Remember, if your parents are angry with you, Allah is angry with you. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is angry with you. Please make sure even now as adults, we have to obey our parents. So I don't want to say my age, but still I tried my best to obey my mom and listen to her. Even if she calls me for some silly reason, I still listen. We still may get frustrated, but we have to understand, we have to respect on our parents. We have to, because we will be questioned. We cannot say oof, cannot even say oof. So please, my sweetheart, remember that, and please, don't displease Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by displeasing your parents. And remember the dua of parents, mashallah, it reaches the heavens, and it reaches Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the dua for your parents is a great tool for you. So please, parents, as the psychologist said, make lots of dua. We are losing this weapon because we feel like, as the psychologist said, we are looking for theory, studies, and solutions, but we're not looking for the tool that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us. Dua is a big weapon. Please be persistent. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not going to give you a change. I know a couple who you prayed for 10 years. A couple who prayed for this is something I heard when I used to study at university back in the day. And someone said that this woman, she said, I didn't have children. My husband prayed for 10 years. She said, my husband prayed for 10 years. After 10 years, we were granted a child, alhamdulillah. That means they were persistent. They didn't give up. Do not lose hope. Keep on praying. And inshallah, I think that's it. I will just do a quick check on Facebook as I was on the website. But I think,
sorry, can I just can I just tell the mother-daughter duo, can you also please make, go on to CLDU, and I would suggest do an Islamic course together. Children are, mashallah, very receptive. They understand a lot. Mom, you can learn a lot from her. A lot of times, I know when I'm reading something, I'll have to call upon the child. They, mashallah, they understand the understanding they have. You two can help each other do this course together. And I'm not saying, day and night live on, but do that as well, alhamdulillah. That will help you both. I mean, do a parenting child skill. Remember, speak to each other how you would like to be spoken to. You don't want to be disrespected. Don't disrespect the other person. Speak how you want to be spoken to. Treat them how you want to be treated.
Okay. Alhamdulillah, Jazakallah khair. I think that's it now. We can finish off. Jazakumullah khair for your time and effort. We appreciate it. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward you for your efforts, and inshallah we will do another session or course soon. Okay. Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah rabbil alameen. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.